Good day, everyone. I'm Wala Ginjibari,
And I am Lini Di Sevillano.
and today we're going to discuss
The meaning and value of work. The meaning and value of work. Introduction. This chapter seeks to encourage students to reflect on the goals and values of their own career and workplace decisions. Explain the variety of meanings and values attributed to work. Distinguish work done as a mere job from work in careers and professions. Examine business responsibility for providing employees with meaningful work. Provide a framework for evaluating business ethical responsibilities to employees. Provide a framework for evaluating the rights and responsibilities of employees.
Discussion case social enterprises and social entrepreneurs. What criteria make a career successful? Would it matter how will you perform your job related tasks? Does your career serve a purpose? Is it possible to find meaning and value of work? Employees are told to check their conscience at the door. The Greg Smith Goldman Sachs case highlights the tension that can exist between aggressive pursuit of profit and personal responsibility and job satisfaction. The Grauman's Bank business model is to lend small amounts of money directly to the poorest people to help them to establish and sustain small business. Mozilla Corporation is a for-profit subsidiary of Mozilla Foundation, a non-profit organization. Mozilla and the company that produced Firefox, the popular web browser alternative to Microsoft Explorer. Mozilla describes itself as a global community of thousands who sincerely believe in the power of technology to enrich people's lives. The meanings of work. Our understanding of the nature of work can have a significant impact on ourselves as individuals and on the institutions of the workplace. For employees, the meaning and value found in work can contribute significantly to self-esteem as well as physical and mental health. For managers, how employees think about work will influence everything from performance and productivity to employee turnover, and from wages and benefits to absenteeism. A job is described as work in which self-identity is independent of the activity. A job is simply a rule that one step into and out of as a means for earning money. Jobs has no meaning other than the instrumental value as a means for earning wages. A career involves a developing relationship between the self and the activity. A career suggests an ongoing activity that is defined in terms of wider social institutions that establish standards of achievement and advancement. A calling also returns to an early tradition of work in which a person's identity and activities were morally inseparable. The value of work. Why work? And what is work good for? Clearly, work has a significant value as a means for attaining an income, and through that income, many other ends that we need and desire. Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, or Steve Jobs continued to work years after they had acquired unimaginable wealth. What goods, other than wages and benefits, come from working? While we cannot hope to be exhausted, we can offer general categorizations of some goods. First, work is means to attain goods other than incomes. Many of these goods have value that cannot be priced and therefore cannot be achieved solely through the money earned by working. Psychic. Good associated with work and thus include feelings of personal satisfaction and self-worth, achievement, self-esteem, and happiness. Work have a social meaning for many people, such as social status, honor, respect, companionship, camaraderie. Aristotle described humans as social beings, and work can be a major activity through which our social nature is expressed. In terms of mere instrumental value, this work decision cost a lower salary, alas, much longer hours, more headaches and stress, and greater responsibilities. Douglas MacGregor in Classical AC defended in management theory, what he called theory Y, that recognized that many diverse values attend through work. Work can refer both to an activity performed with diligence and perseverance, and it can refer to employment. So, what might be the goal of an ethical workplace? Does business have a responsibility to provide employees with meaningful work? Or is business responsibility complete when it pays a fair wage for a fair day's work? These questions take on added significance when we recognize three common aspects of the contemporary work scene. First, few workers have significant choices and alternatives open to them in the workplace. Given the significant instrumental value that work has as the means of making one's livelihood, few people are in the position where they put their job in jeopardy. This means that people may be put in situations where they must accept less than ideal working conditions. A growing movement variously called social entrepreneurship or social enterprise challenges the assumption that one cannot pursue both profit and social causes. Social entrepreneurship differs from the work of non-profit groups such as NGOs and corporate foundations in that they explicitly aim to be profitable, and it is also involves the standard entrepreneurial characteristics of innovation, creativity, and risk-taking, but marshal these skills to address social needs. For social entrepreneurs, the on-top market is a social and ethical need such as social justice, environmental protections, education, or healthcare. One of the best-known social entrepreneurs is Muhammad Yunus, founder of the Grameen Bank in Bangladesh, an economist who began his career as a university professor in the United States. Yunus returned to his native Bangladesh in the early 1970s, soon after that country gained its independence from Pakistan. How would the career of a software engineer, an accountant, or a marketing manager who works for Mozilla differ from a similar career at Microsoft? It is fair to say that the model of work that dominated economic thinking throughout most of the 20th century has given way to a broader understanding. Work, perhaps especially in the decades after World War II, was understood primarily on what we might call the industrial model. In this context, social entrepreneurship and social enterprises provide helpful background against which to reflect on the changing nature of work. The meaning and value of work, both actual and potential, will therefore have important implications for the structure and operation of the workplace. What does work mean? At first glance, we should recognize that we use work with a variety of meanings, both as a verb and as a noun. As a verb, work refers to activities that involves perseverance, discipline, toil, usually performed with a degree of seriousness and concentrations. And as a noun, work can refer to particular accomplishments any general undertaking or task, or a job, or employment. Work can suggest a job profession, career, trade, labor, occupation, vocation, or calling. Sociologist Robert Bella and his co-authors of Habits of the Heart offer some insightful observations concerning various meanings of work and their relations. The author distinguished between a job, a career, and a calling. Each is distinguished by the degree to which the identity of the person filling the role is determined to role itself. Many of the social values of work, such as camaraderie and social status, can be loose or unavailable to part-time and temporary workers. Before we turn to business responsibility in this regard, let us consider some major theories of work. Conventional views of work. This book, being about work, is, by its nature, about violence to the spirit as well as to the body. It is about ulcers as well as accidents, about shouting matches as well as fights, about nervous breakdowns as well as kicking the dogs around. The very words work and labor carry this negative connotation in ordinary language. The good life for humans would be a life of contemplations and a life spent enjoying the higher pleasures of art, politics, and culture. This classical interpretation of work conceives of human as intellectual beings, yet work is physical. The Roman philosopher Plutarch portrays this classical view in the following quotation. Gentlemen enjoyed the contemplation of the sculpture masterpieces, but he would never himself use hammer and chisel and get covered sweat and dust. 20th century philosopher Witherspoon echoes Plutarch's sentiments on the relative value of work. The rise of the working class in modern history has led to the glorification of work and the reduction of virtually all human activity to species of work, while leisure becomes identified with idleness. Another 20th century philosopher, Hannah Arendt, often her influential book, The Human Condition, with similar sentiments. Hedonistic interpretation. The second version of the conventional model is much more common in the contemporary world and understands work as a necessary means for obtaining life's pleasures.
The Human Fulfillment Model. The Human Fulfillment Model. Work is the primary activity through which people develop their full potential as human beings. Thales, the Greek philosophers who argued that humans had a natural potential. The contemporary slogan of the US Army reflects the same ethical attitude, be all that you can be. Teleological ethics is the general approach, and it is a tradition that was carried on through the great Christian philosophers of the medieval period. The study of psychologists George and Caroline Valiant conclude the willingness and capacity to work in childhood is the most important forerunner. More important than native intelligence, social class, or family situation of mental health. The basic costs of unemployment are well documented. Loss of self-esteem and respect, stress, anxiety, depression, isolation, and apathy are common consequences. So we have the three kinds of loss if we do not work: the perseverance, diligence, and concentration. Then, when people do not work, we have the lazy, careless, apathetic, destruction of community, valiant study, willingness, and capacity to work childhood, is a strong predictor of good mental health as an adult. Big question revolves around the worker shaping work. E.F. Schumacher is the economist developing point details on how work can do bad things to workers and hence at what the corresponding good work would be. Bad work is mechanical, artificial, diverse from nature, utilizing only the smallest part of man's potential capabilities. It sentenced the great majority of workers to spending their lives in a way which contains no worthy challenge, no stimulus to self-perfection, no chance of development, no element of beauty, truth, or goodness. Karl Marx, under capitalist production, workers inevitably face a life of alienation from the products of their work, from the creative process of work, and from their essence as social creatures. Pope John Paul II. Work is one of the characteristics that distinguish humans from the rest of creatures. Only humans work. Humans work in order to attain their needs and wants, but work also shapes humans. Gregory Baum. It is true labor that people create their world, and it is through the same labor that in a certain sense they also create themselves. Through work, we exercise our freedom and autonomy in making choices. We develop our talents and exercise creativity. Humans create their society and culture. We express our nature as a social beings. The liberal model of work. The liberal model of work occupies a middle ground between the conventional model and the human fulfillment model. Workers should be free to choose the ends of their work. Humans can be significantly influenced by their work. We should make ethical assessments of work based on how it affects people who perform it. Norman Bowie. One of the moral obligations of the firm is to provide meaningful work for employees. The liberal model of work argues that individuals have certain rights in the workplace and that these rights function to protect certain central and primary goods. Business responsibility for meaningful work. The classical model argues that to the degree that work is necessary and physical, it cannot be made meaningful. Liberals argue that business has a range of responsibilities to provide meaningful work. The human fulfillment model argues that employees cannot have the responsibility of making employees better people. So, that's end for our report.